All right, here we are with some Heliod company. Um, Pretty standard list. Really just pulled this. I believe this was Canister's list from a preliminary. I believe is where I pulled this from. So for the most part, pretty typical. What I really like is because this is a deck that I don't uh, play very frequently or haven't played very much of. What I love about this is the simplicity in the sideboard. Like 4X card we need, 4X card we need, 4X card we need, and then just like 3 1-ofs that are like situationally good but fairly reasonable to understand when they need to come in. So boarding in cards, I'm sure, is not going to be something I'm going to struggle with here. However, I will probably struggle with what to be boarding out. Um, Fortunately, it'll only ever be, or should, for the most part, only ever be like a max of 4 cards. Maybe against the Prowess, I'll have 5 between the Burnt Forged Tenders and the Paths or something, but who knows necessarily. We may not even need all 4 in a matchup like that. So I'm going to try not to screw this up too bad, and we're going to see if we can just hop right in there, and I'll see you in round number 1. Alrighty, here we are. Number 1. First hand with Heliod, and I think this is a keep. We don't have any 1-drop accelerant, but we have 2 2-drops and then 2 really good 3s, and then we obviously have our only and best possible 4. So in the dark on the draw, it's definitely not the greatest hand we could have, and I would love to trade in really any card in our hand for an accelerant on one, but it is what it is. Oof. Okay, well now this looks real bad. Like really bad. It's probably like worst possible. They did mulligan all the way down to 6. That would be. Oh, it's Etron. Okay, that's much easier for us. Etron probably doesn't really have many ways to deal with infinite life. I don't believe. So we're probably fine there. Just drawing all 2s. I guess I can just lead on an Auriok champion. Not that these are great, but I don't know that it makes too much of a difference what it is we're leading on here. They're probably going to grab like another Eldrazi Temple, and then hopefully it's not Reality Smasher. Okay, it's a Blast Zone, so they can start cranking out our 2s. They already had one. Yikes. Okay, this is a really solid hand from them. We're going to always yes to this. Yeah, that's not good for us because we can't even Skyclave that, which is a problem. So now I guess what we can do, we can just grab a forest. We can Ranger Captain. Always yield. And leave that as always yes. Yep. And I guess just try to set up to combo kill them. Always yes, always yield. And I suppose we can get in for 1 because this isn't going to block anything anyway. Hoping they don't have more of these. That would potentially be a problem. Oh my goodness. Mulligan down to 5 or 6 or whatever it was into double Eldrazi Temple, double Reality Smasher draw. Yeah, that's going to be a problem for us. So now I think our best bet is to Collected Company and hope that we rip into infinite life here. We did not. I guess we just take this. Yikes. Oh boy. Okay. And I guess now we're stuck in trade mode. Double block to hope to trade. I mean, if they have triple smasher, we're actually just dead. But I think that was our best bet there, was hope that we found something. They have a dismember anyway. Good lord. So that is their actual... There's nothing we can do about that. I mean, whew. That was hot stuff on their end. So I guess we just want these paths. Seem pretty good. I know that Damping Sphere has the potential to slow them down. I don't think that that's the kind of card that we want here, to be honest. And then we can probably just... I mean, are we allowed to cut all the Auriok champions? Like, they're really bad in this matchup. They're just a 2-mana, occasionally gain some life, but pro-black, pro-red. I guess it means they get through dismembers, but they're never going to be as big as their creatures. So I think this is fine. Yeah, this all seems fine. I guess we can just go like that. Maybe we could trim one Heliod for something if we felt like we wanted. Nah, I was gonna say if we wanted like one of the one drops that we can tutor for, but this would be a sweet spot to have a giant killer to be able to board in to tutor for, but it is what it is. Okay, one drop. Yep, we're gonna keep this. We have a turn 2 Heliod on the play into a turn 3 company, which is obviously just fantastic. So I think with this first Utopia Sprawl, I'm just gonna name green. I think that's what we need to do here. So we'll grab ourselves a forest, enchant this forest, and just name green. Go ahead and pass. So we get to turn 2 Heliod into turn 3, hopefully something. Yep. I mean, turn 2 Heliod into turn 3 company is a pretty good start for us. And they didn't show Temple, so they can't even Thought Not Seer us here, which is good. Now we have to hope they don't have like an All Is Dust. So it's just a Walking Ballista. Okay, so we can't combo here now is what that means. So what do we want to do? We could just collect a company to see what we hit. We could alternatively Ranger Captain plus Utopia Sprawl. Our hope is that they don't have natural Tron. Our opponent's draws have been fire so far, so maybe we can get away with something. But we could, if we Utopia Sprawl, we use one of the green, we have one green floating plus the plains, and we can just put this Temple Garden into play. Ranger Captain, and go ahead and find ourselves... I mean, I guess instead of Utopia Sprawling, we could find ourselves an Arbor Elf to just have, like, tons and tons of mana. But I think it's probably better to just grab the Ballista. I know they have this in play, but we have quite a bit of mana happening right now, so I think that's okay. And this time we can choose white. Put this into play untapped. Always yield, and yes. We'll just go ahead and find ourselves the Ballista and pass the turn. Now, there's some consideration to if they have Eldrazi Temple, Thought Not Seer exactly, to maybe try to get this company into play now. But I think that now that we have this Ballista in hand, there may be some merit to them wanting to take the Ballista anyway, even if they had that line. So that's something to keep in mind too. So now we just have infinite life. So we just get to go to combat. I'll attack here. Bam. We get to then sacrifice this. Oh no, we don't because of that was a big oops. I guess we can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can put this into play as a 3/3. I don't know if that's better though. That was a big mistake. What I hadn't considered was how Spike Feeder is going to be interacting with this Walking Ballista in play, but I guess we can still. What if we put a Walking Ballista into play X1, then cast a Spike Feeder, and then we should be okay because they have to use this to kill. Yeah, I think that does it actually. So if we put this into play, X1, and then we put this Spike Feeder into play, now this Spike Feeder gaining life would put counters on this Ballista. Although I guess we can't give this lifelink right now. We're 1 mana short of being able to do that as well too. So this actually doesn't do it. This does force them to use their Walking Ballista, but it doesn't actually end the game here. So I should have thought that through just a bit more. Like I said, new to this deck, so it's definitely different. But if I had thought this through a bit more, I think I would have just said go and companied on their end step, to see if we could rip anything there. And then if we drew a land or had a mana source off that company, we'd be in a pretty good spot. So now, I guess we can just say go. We don't need to act first here, because what's going to happen is if we go to gain 2 life, we're going to target the walking ballista, and then they're going to shoot it with their walking ballista, and then the spike feeder is only going to have one counter on it, so we cannot go infinite with that. So I guess we just get to pass here, and now they have to be scared because we have this combo in play at instant speed. So if we get to untap, we can do something like try to put a counter on the walking ballista first and make them interact. Unless they just go land pass, or if they have a dismember. Those are the two ways that they can interact with us in that sense. We also get the option of, if they don't have a land or a dismember, we get to cast or spike feeder, trigger, target the walking ballista. And then if they do shoot their walking ballista, we can gain another life in response again and do this walking ballista thing once again, which is pretty good. We also still just have this company pretty much rolled up, which is obviously nice for us too. See what they're thinking about. This is definitely a complex board state already. You know, we're in just our first match, second game, and it's already kind of a situation where maybe I've done something wrong, as well as just the board on its own is just complicated. Walking ballista interacting with opposing walking ballistas is always just super weird. I think they're debating if they need to just do something now, because if they pump right now, like if they go land, pump ballista, we can then, do we need to respond to that? So if we kill this right now, we should be fine, right? Because then they can't interact with our Heliod combo of just infinite life here. Yeah, if we do this, and they're tapped out, so we get to go to infinite life here, or arbitrarily large life here. Okay, this does nothing. So they probably should just be shooting our face here. That, I guess, stops us from doing this immediately right now, but that's it. I wonder if they have, like, a pithing needle or something to go find, and they're hoping that they can, like, put us to infinite life and then have some alternative way to win the game? I don't know. Yeah, they don't have a land, so we're just going to get to do this anyway. Save targets. Always yield. So we should just be able to do this as many times as we want. Gain ourselves a whole bunch of life. I suppose what we could do is we could company right now, because if we find ourselves a conclave, we actually just win the game. So let's try that now, actually. Ranger Captain, Spike Feeder. Okay. Yes. We're going to go find another walking ballista. It's going to continue to gain life here. And then we can sack this Ranger Captain on their upkeep. I'm going to just kill this Karn right now. So we can put a counter here. Go to combat. Kill this Karn. So that we can potentially ballista them. And then on their upkeep, we can sacrifice this Ranger Captain of Eos so that they can't cast this Pithing Needle to shut anything off. I mean, I don't know what number I'm supposed to go to here. I think there's probably like some number that's like past what they can reasonably deal, but I'm just going to go to like 70 or something like that, because we have this other spike feeder in hand, which means that we get to do this again. Even if they like find a way to remove our spark feeder or something. So that's probably fine. We're just going to go here that far, and then we're probably... Oh, 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 oh. Shoot. Got a notification on my phone. Did not mean to do that. Got a notification on my phone and accidentally clicked when I did not mean to. So now they can Pithing Needle us here. Okay, with this trigger on the stack, I'm going to sacrifice this. So now, this could be like Reality Smasher or something, but they can't cast that Pithing Needle. I meant to do that on upkeep. So Thought-Knot Seer to take our Walking Ballista so that they aren't just dead, but they basically are. Yeah. Conclave would be sick? No? Oh, wait. So I don't think this kills them because we don't have quite enough mana, right? And is that both of our Walking Ballistas? We go through them both already? Yeah, we did. So I guess instead what we do here is we cast this. Yes. We go find, I suppose, just a Noble Hierarch. And then we get to attack here, actually, because we can move a counter from here to here if we need to. And now I don't care about their Pithing Needle. So we can make this a 4/4 that even if they go to try to trade, we can actually just move a counter from this one to that one. We can end up moving all of these counters over to the other one as well, too. So if I undo my auto yields, move it to gain 2 life, put the counter here, save targets, always yield, do it again, and again. So now we have this one over here, which is fine. Yeah, and that's all fine. This is now a 4/4 naturally, which is good too. There's no reason I don't think to do this now, is there? To sack Ranger Captain? If they Pithing Needle our Spike Feeder, does that matter? I don't know if it honestly does. I think that's fine. Trying to think of what way they might have to actually beat Infinite Life. They probably are playing some number of 10 mana Ulamog. That must be it. Like if they play 10 mana Ulamog, they can hope to mill us out. Otherwise, I'm unsure how they actually beat this Infinite Life, or if they're just sticking around because they get click time value out of us, that kind of thing. And that's something to be said about playing this on Magic Online, because if somebody wants, they can just say that you don't get to do anything, right? Like, or that you don't win the game yet, necessarily. And that makes a difference. Okay, so we're going to just do this for like a billion. And then we can move one of these counters over to the Ranger Captain as well, too. To make it a 4/4, so it gets past this Thought-Knot Seer with our Exalted trigger. Yeah, see, and this is the kind of situation where unless they are playing Ulamog, which, don't get me wrong, they very well could be. Unless they are playing Ulamog, they should be scooping, because they cannot beat this. Because in real paper, this is where you just say, I'm at 10 billion, right? Like, I'm at a number that's unreachable for you to be able to attack through in your creature-based, combat step deck, and you kind of just say that, well, good luck, but supposing that they are actually playing 10 mana Ulamog as their one out to be able to mill us, this seems fine. So once again, I don't know exactly what I should be going to, like what my life total should be. I'm sure 200 is probably fine, which sounds like a lot, but like, Reality Smashers deal a lot of damage if they just start coming off the top like crazy, so something to consider. So I'm going to pick that number, not based on any math, based purely on not wanting to click for forever and thinking that 200 sounds like a nice, round, easy number that's probably fine. Yeah. Couple more clicks. At least this is fairly, like, click friendly. Like, it's really just 2 clicks. Um, it looks like they currently are not. No, they are. Okay, I was gonna say they're not F6 through this or whatever, which is fine. But it looks like maybe they are. Okay, so now I'm just gonna put a counter here. I'm gonna go ahead and pass the turn. So we got a 4/4 that gets to attack through what they're doing. Obviously they can double block, but if we get to kill this Thought-Knot Seer, I think we're totally fine. What is this? Ranger Captain of Eos. Oh boy, so they actually have something. Ooh, that's a nice draw. Yeah. So we're going to do this. Take this out. Cool. I was going to say, I wonder what they must have. I wonder if they have, like, All Is Dust or something as a way to get through that, and that's why they decided to name Ranger Captain. They have to have some non-creature spell in their hand that they felt like they needed to be able to resolve to win that game. And it could, I suppose, be like 6-mana Ugin to just start tearing through things or something, but who knows? Well, this hand's pretty good. I mean, it's going to be a little rough against a turn 2 Thought-Knot Seer if they get to take our Collected Company, but if they don't have exactly that, we're probably in a good spot. Well, very well might. Yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes. We'll see where we're at. Utopia Sprawl off the top would be a sweet draw. Once again, hoping that they don't have Eldrazi. Eldrazi Temple number 2 already. We shall see. The Karmic Great Creators are pretty sweet, just naturally kind of hating out what it is we're trying to do. Is this a Dismember our Arbor Elf? That's pretty sweet. We have another Arbor Elf in play. Grafdigger's Cage is a bit of a bummer, I suppose, but we didn't really have too much to be doing this turn anyway, to be honest. If that didn't happen, we would have just played out a Spike Feeder, and that's not the end of the world. So, fine with them using a Dismember on the Arbor Elf. Oof, okay. That's less fine. So now we need, like, Skyclave Apparition is something we desperately need. Yep. So name Spike Feeder, which makes sense, and we found the Skyclave. Sweet. So I think we have to do this now and tag this cage, because what I don't want to run into is a situation where they have a Thought-Knot Seer and they get to take our Skyclave Apparition with it. So I'm going to do this, hit the cage. I think that's more important right now. They've shown that they're not going to scoop to the Infinite Life anyway necessarily, and getting this Collected Company as a possibility is a pretty big draw. Although I suppose maybe that's not correct based solely on the fact that they've showed us that this company could be pretty good. Or sorry, that these Spike Feeders could be pretty good because they actually get to do something in the face of an Eldrazi or a Thought-Knot Seer, which clearly they have because they're sacrificing here, going to get Eldrazi Temple, I'm sure, and then Thought-Knot Seering us. Oh, no, so they must have some big Tron payoff? Okay. They're just hoping to rip it. And we can't go for Infinite Life any longer because of this Sorcerer's Spyglass, but having these Skyclaves in is good news for us because it means that we could potentially company into something that's relevant. Is this just Ballista onto? That's fine. Sacrifice. I don't think it matters which one we grab. We'll grab white. The white in our deck's a little more mana intensive. So we'll go ahead and cast this. Oh boy, those are some hits. Those are definitely some hits. Wow, the UI on this company, I know I said it before, but the UI is just awful. The interface is just garbage. And they just scooped it up. All right, cool. Well, that was pretty simple. And yeah, pretty simple, pretty easy stuff. I will see you in round number 2. All right, here we are with round number 2. Match number 2, I suppose, of green-white Heliod. Looks like a keep to me. Lost the die roll, unfortunately, but having a 1-mana accelerant, a bunch of good 3s, Auriok Champion if it's the right matchup, although without Lurrus being around, it's probably not going to be, Auriok Champion's time to shine per se, but who knows? We'll see. Ooh, interesting. Okay, so counters, huh? Counters, counters, counters. So they probably have walking ballistas of their own. Well, they assuredly have walking ballistas of their own that can potentially interrupt some of our combos, which is interesting. Probably means we're probably in a spot where we want to play one of our combo pieces this next turn. Um, I would assume that Heliod is the best one to play because it's the one that they can't interact with the easiest. It's tough to know for sure. Hardened Scales. Okay, that's scary. Hopefully not like another one. Okay, a 2/2. That's not a big deal. Yeah, I think we're just going to go for Heliod. It's the least impactful, but also the hardest one for them to deal with. If they don't have specifically whatchamacallit, the walking ballista, we should be fine. Okay. Now if they have like some other modular creature, maybe we die. No? Okay, good. No land here would mean that we should just beat game. I don't think they can beat. No, I suppose they probably play what's it called? It's an awkward land drop, so we can't play this Arbor Elf out. Sorry, the infect thing. The infect land. If they do play the infect land, then they can in fact beat infinite life. So save targets always yield. Here, the scary thing is we do have to go pretty high to not die to things, although I don't think that they play any removal outside of Walking Ballista, which means that I think we should be good to just pass, because we can gain at instant speed. So that's probably fine, would be my guess. We'll have to see. Have to see for sure, but I'm pretty sure my guess is that us being able to gain at instant speed should be totally fine enough. Next turn, we can Ranger Captain plus Arbor Elf using the colorless land for the Ranger Captain and then the green floating from the land to play out an Arbor Elf, and then we'll be able to find ourselves most of what we need. Hangerback Walker, that's fine. They can't kill us through regular combat damage. Like, that's just not something that can happen, so I'm fine with everything they could do. Yeah, and they're not even attacking because they understand that. Like, I think they also are just saying that they're gonna try to infect us out, and that's about it. So we'll do this. Grab ourselves a walking ballista. Always yield. We'd like to also say yes to this. Yes. Let's grab a ballista. Play this out. And we can pass. There's no need to sack Ranger Captain, like I said, because most of their interaction would come from a walking ballista of their own anyways. Although the awkward part is, depending on how they want to do things, if they do have a walking ballista and they play it out this next turn, although I don't think they do because I think they would have already played it, but assuming that they did have one, it would potentially be a little awkward because we probably would have to go up to whatever life total we deem is high enough in response because we don't want Walking Ballista to be able to interfere with that. And they can deal loads of damage out of this deck. Like, they can probably get a Ballista to like a 50-50. No? Okay, cool. But they can. I mean, they can probably get a Ballista to like a 50-50, which is definitely scary. Oh, this just hits enchantments. So I don't love that. Probably needs some number of paths, but I don't want to go too hard. Maybe we'll start with like 2. 2 seems probably fine. That's probably a decent number. And then what do we not need? Skyclaves are fantastic. Is there any way they can take Heliod off the table? I don't think there is. So I'm going to actually just trim 1 Heliod. Although it's important to have the combo, I think it's fine to trim 1 in a matchup where it's pretty unlikely that it can ever come off the table once it does hit. And then maybe just Auriok Champion. I don't think that that's really going to do much against a bunch of colorless creatures. So we'll just try that for now. If we feel we need more interaction, we could potentially board up some more paths. But I don't want to be stuck on too many interactive spells. Yeah, see, this is a pretty solid hand because we have 1 piece of interaction, but we also are doing things for ourselves as well, too. And Skyclave is great because unlike most traditional like white creatures that tag things or move things or whatever, it being able to hit artifacts and enchantments that are not creatures is super key. So us being able to potentially take a hardened scales off the table is a big deal, especially because something like a hardened scale can't just be sacrificed to a Ravager in response to whatever it is that we target. Because what can come up is we can just go to Skyclave it, let's say the Ravager itself or something like that, right? And they can just move all of its counters around. And although we get the most important threat off the table when that happens, we don't actually answer all of the counters that are coming from those creatures, and that's potentially a problem. So that being said, we'll see what our opponent has. It's pretty likely that we're going to try to Ranger Captain onto. It's pretty unlikely that we need to Skyclave onto. The exception to that could be if they have a Walking Ballista. It might be nice to just tag it before they can do anything else scary. Like if they go turn 1 Hardened Scales, turn 2 Ballista, we might, just want to tag the Ballista itself before anything else could get, scarier. Aside from that, it's probably just Ranger Captain. I think we would even let them untap with a, what's it called? The 2-drop that sacks and moves counters around. Arcbound Ravager. We'd probably even let them untap with the Ravager at this point because I think we're probably in for combo, and basically anything outside of Walking Ballista is going to be fine enough for us. I'll check to see if they lost connection. That can happen. They have not. That's fine. Probably just a tough mulligan decision. Maybe, a life something is happening. Who knows? Tough to know for sure. Well, while I got you here and I'm chatting for a second, feel free to hop on over, either when you're done with this video or even now, who cares, to Collective Effort on YouTube. It's a channel where some buddies and myself, we do some play testing in paper Magic primarily, through a couple of different formats. We've done some Pioneer, we've done some Modern. We're looking to do a variety of different series as well too. Things like an unbannable series and looking at things that could potentially become unbanned in various formats, trying to play out cards that we like that are on the ban list to see what are the chances that this card is reasonable in the format. Not to say any of them are predictions or anything, but that's something we're looking at doing, as well as just branching out into some other interesting content, potentially like some tournament prep for some online tournaments as well in the future. Actually, that may be coming up in a short couple of weeks here at looking at getting into some Moto tournaments specifically, and yeah, some things like that. But for the most part, that's going to be more paper Magic focused. Yeah, just a different way to go about playing Magic and having fun with Magic. My primary enjoyment comes from playing it in paper with people, and obviously that hasn't been super available throughout the last year. So um, yeah, just feel free to take a second to hop on over there and check out what we've got. We're always looking to put out more content, although we don't have too much yet, because we are just starting up. It is nice to um, take some time and actually get some things set up and do things the way that we want to do it, and do things correctly before we get too deep into it. So yeah, feel free to hop on over there if that's something you're into. Anyway, we'll see how much longer our opponent's going to be either disconnected or potentially just away. Oh, looks like it's right now. Cool. Must have been just maybe a tough mulligan decision. Who knows? Yep, Ink Moth. Okay, that is a bit scary. That's a nice draw for us. I am still going to just name white here. All of our lands produce green. We have some double white cards in our hand. Might as well just do that now. Now this is a little scary. Hanger back. Okay, that one I don't care as much about. So, do we want to just Ranger Captain? I think so. I think that's probably best. Yeah, we're going to give that a shot. Go ahead and just find our ballista here. And pass. We might even, I mean, it's pretty unlikely, but there might be a world where we just play out a ballista early enough on just to have as something that can interact with what they're doing. That wouldn't be insane. Okay. Do they not have a land, though? If they don't have a land, that'd be pretty sweet. They don't. Okay. So now I kind of want to just take this Ozolith off the table. Like, if we just Skyclave Apparition, take this Ozolith off the table, we can also play out this Noble Hierarch to get a little bit more mana as well, too. I kind of like that. How does this work? Can I attack first and then at the beginning of combat on your turn? I can. So I can attack first, and they might just block because they think that they're going to get this counter back for free. And I don't care if they get, you know, a 1/1 flyer out of the deal. That's totally fine. So they might think like, oh, if we block, we can, you know, potentially do something. No, they didn't fall for it. That's fine. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and Skyclave away this Ozolith. I'm going to just fetch out another forest here, I guess. Probably should have used the Misty, I suppose, but I don't know if it matters too much. And go ahead and pass. I don't think we need to be, like, sacking this Ranger Captain to keep them off of, yeah, like another Ozolith or something. I don't think that's really the end of the world. Obviously, it's a bummer that they have one here, but they have more dangerous plays that they could make for 2 mana that I think we need to be concerned with. So now we just have tons of mana. So I kind of want to, so we can just go ahead and company main phase to see if we can find the combo here. And then after that, we can play out this Arbor Elf, which is pretty good. One card we might have to be worried about is the Green Force. I can tag artifacts and enchantments. So, well, looks like I might have just done it all. I'll have to see if they have something that we're not considering. But I think we just go infinite life here. And I don't think there's any way they can interact with this, so now it's just a matter of they're going to try to ink moth us out like we had said before. Here. Just going to go ahead and play this Arbor Elf, play this land out. I'm going to go up a little bit higher right now. Just to like 50 or so. I don't know that we necessarily need to do this. I think we're both on the same wavelength of like infect or bust for them. And this also probably means that they have to have some form of removal for whatchamacallit, the Walking Ballista, which is probably just another Walking Ballista of their own. At this point, I'm fine with attacking, although I suppose the nightmare situation would be if they did have a Walking Ballista of their own. They like triple blocked, ate all these things, put 3 counters, and then just untapped, played Walking Ballista, and got to put all their counters on the Walking Ballista. That could potentially be a bit rough because then they would get to start shooting some things down. Outside of that, I think it's probably fine. Although, you know, we have this infinite damage for next turn, so maybe it was just wrong to attack and give them that out. But we might end up having just been soft to a Walking Ballista in the first place. Although I suppose we have enough mana, we can probably play this out for what? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 9 mana next turn, which means if we draw a land, we can play it out as a 4/4 and still have mana to activate. But it's probably better to play it out if they don't have something. It's probably better to play it out as a 2/2. Or I suppose we can even play it out as a 1/1 if we really wanted to. But play it out as a 2/2 and then be able to give it lifelink twice in response to like a removal spell. Could be pretty sweet. And this Spike Feeder does let us put potentially up to 2 counters. So I'm going to actually undo my auto yields because we could potentially put 2 counters on the Walking Ballista in response to something else that they may have. Although if they just let us untap, I'm just going to sack Ranger Captain and then kill them. Yep, I'll just fetch right now. See if they have anything. Just go ahead and do this right now. See what they've got. If they don't cast something here, they're dead. Okay. 1, 2, untap. 3, 4. Now we can get this lifelink twice if they do have a removal spell. Sweet. Awesome. Well, pretty simple there. I guess we're playing the better Walking Ballista deck. We'll see you in round number 3. All right, in round number 3, here we are for Heliod Ballista combo, winning the die roll for the first time. Obviously, things have worked out for us in the past, so we have been fine, but yeah, stand seems fine. Luris. Okay, so this Auric champion might be pretty good. Being on the play here is actually really important for a matchup like this because if they're prowess, we need to be getting out ahead of things early. If they have a discard spell, we need to get ahead of things early. So yeah, and this time I'm gonna name green. We already have another white source wrapped up, so we actually have double green or double white, whatever we might need already. So it looks like red, probably prowess at a Wooded Foothills, although it could. Oh, Mother of Ruins. What does that mean for us? I think I want to play this Heliod out. I think that's what this means. That was a nice draw. Obviously, we have the out to infinite life this next turn. If they don't have something, or if they just tap out for something else. If they don't, we get to just... I think I actually like playing out Auric Champion Noble Hierarch. I want to just have more mana available to us. Always yield. Yes. And let's just put a counter. Guess I'll just put it on the Noble Hierarch itself. Be kind of nice to just get that a little bit bigger. So that it can potentially tussle with some things. I'm not super worried about, if they have Path, it takes out anything, so it doesn't really make a difference there. And it looks like they just do. Oh, Eladamri's Call. Interesting. So I wonder if this is just like a Luris white-green deck. Oh, okay, I see. It's a Devoted Druid combo deck. Okay, so now they're going to try to put their combo into play. We're going to get infinite life, but I suppose if they have infinite mana, that then cancels that out, doesn't it? Huh. Because they can infinite mana, they can deal infinite damage, and infinite damage would beat that. So that's a bit awkward. This time I'll put a counter here, just diversify a little bit. This is the one they revealed, right? Okay, just making sure. Interesting. I wonder what this all means then. So non-creature spells. So that doesn't matter here, unfortunately. So green, green, white. Play out our Spike Feeder. Now we have to hope they don't have their infinite combo, because if they do, it just doesn't matter. Yeah. We'll do this because this means that if they do have a path, they have to use it right now. Okay. Save targets, always heal. So yeah, this is potentially awkward. They do have a way to get through all of this because if they untap and have both of their combo pieces, um, which for anyone who's curious, that could be it would be the 2 mana your creatures can't get -1/-1 counters on them. That, as well as anything that deals an abnormally large amount of damage. Walking Ballista is the typical one, but they also will occasionally play some number of like the green, uh, like I think it's one of the Hour spells from like Hour of Devastation, I believe. They'll play one of those sometimes. All right, I'm just gonna attack now. We can get in because we can get in for 3 here. And that could potentially do it because it's if it's 10 or greater, I think is what it is. On that card, they get to actually just give +X/+X to their team. And if that's the case, I suppose what's nice is they would have to, with that one, they'd have to pick a number, and we could then gain above that number. So I suppose Infinite Life would be that. What Infinite Life wouldn't be would be Walking Ballista. Because we could both sit there gaining and dealing infinite amounts of life in response. Okay, so they do have it. So I'm gonna yield to this. We'll see what it is they have. So that grabs Eladomri's Call, which grabs a Walking Ballista. Hmm. So just asking real quick here because I'm curious if they have like some better understanding or something. I suppose actually what happens here. So no, you know what? I think I do lose because what will end up happening is they will actually just shoot down the spike feeder. And when they shoot down the spike feeder, I have to be at a determined amount of life. At that point, they then get to shoot me for infinite damage, correct? I think so. I think that's probably what they are saying as well too. I think that's how that works. I'm gonna give them just a quick second to respond because I believe that's the case, and I'm not gonna, waste time if that is how this will end up playing out. I think that's a bummer if this is how this whole thing is shaken down. Sweet, thanks, GG. Let's move on. Not gonna waste time. Yeah, so that is the case as they just explained there. They get to deal infinite damage to the spike feeder. And once they kill the spike feeder, then I have to be at a determined amount of life, which is obviously a problem. So here, we just want to be more interactive. Although on the play, maybe not entirely. So I'm actually going to trim one Skyclave, one Ranger Captain, because I don't know if we want to have too many threes in this matchup. And I might just trim two Spike Feeders because they don't actually they don't just scoop to infinite life. Yeah, I'm gonna try that. Yep. So here we have, I mean, a pretty solid keep. Gonna hope that they don't have, you know, mom into, all of it at the same time again, because probably don't have a draw that beats that, because we're gonna be a bit too slow. Unless we draw the enchantment Utopia Sprawl. If we draw the Utopia Sprawl, that could potentially be good here. All right, they do have the mom. So you're going to see our top card here. So they know we are drawing, what do we draw? Conclave Mentor. Does that change what we want to do? Probably not. Probably not, right? Yeah. I'm going to grab a Temple Garden. White, untap. Doesn't matter. Play out this Heliod. And then next turn we can play the, right, Auriok Champion 1, 2. Yeah, we can play Auriok Champion into Conclave Mentor, put counters on things, or it may just be better. Yikes, they might just have us rolled up again. Okay. So now, I think what I need to do instead is sack this on their upkeep and hope that they have a non-creature spell and don't just have natural Walking Ballista. Like, if 2 of their last 4 cards are not Devoted Druid, Vizier, Walking Ballista, then we just die. But we can get around them having Eladamri's Call or the green thing if we play that way. So I think that's what we have to do. So I'm going to set this stop on their upkeep. Find ourselves a Ballista. And I think we also probably have to draw the Utopia Sprawl to get out of this, to have enough mana to actually do it all in one turn, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but I guess I don't have to do this now, because we don't know if they have infinite mana yet. No, I'm going to do this now. I lied. I don't want them to be able to chord into what they need plus do something. Okay, if you have it, you have it. If you have the Ballista in hand, you just have it. It appears that they do. Maybe they, who knows, maybe they play like... Oh, I guess they could also just have like Duskwatch Recruiter in hand. Duskwatch Recruiter would go find it. Curious what else they might play. It has to just be Ballista in hand, right? That's a bummer. Means they could already play the Ballista out for more than lethal. Yeah, it appears to be Ballista as they're just clicking. Man, that's rough. Just get, I mean, they had it all. They had exactly Giver into Devoted Druid into Vizier, kill you on turn 3. So, not much we can do about that. Not much we can do about that. Kept a decent hand. I don't think we can. I don't think we have to mulligan to like 2 pieces of interaction just to try to beat specifically their best possible draw. I think that that's probably just what we need to be doing. Maybe we could have collected company. Would that have changed anything? Probably not, right? Because even if we hit 2 Skyclaves, we target the Mother of Runes, target the Devoted Druid, they give the Devoted Druid protection, and then untap and still do the same thing. So even casting a company wouldn't have made any difference there, unless there's something else I'm thinking of, or not thinking of. But yeah, oh well, is what it is. Moving on to match number 4. All right, here we are with round number 4. Um, yeah, I mean, I think this is a keep again, right? We have Utopia Sprawl showing why it's such a good card in this deck. Into a whole slurry of 3 drops, or even if they do discard that, we could potentially Auriok Champion. And if they're playing discard Auriok Champion, it's got to be a pretty good card against them. Unless they discard us twice, of course, in which case, we'll probably just be a little sad. So maybe just back to classic black-red here. That would be interesting. I haven't seen that in quite some time, to be honest. So I know our top card. So if this is a land, we'll play this land out. Alright, so I know we have Heliod. Which probably just means we're going to turn to Heliod them as opposed to anything else. So we'll do that. We'll name white. Go ahead and pass. And this deck cannot beat Infinite Life. One thing that is a bit worrisome with a deck like this is just the people that are going to make you click through everything. And like even if they can't, beat Infinite Life, they might try to just like time you out because Moto's Moto. And make you kill them, which sometimes is completely fair and other times just feels a bit scummy when in real life it would basically just end up being over. I wonder if they have to just take the spike feeder here, I suppose. Um, Alternatively, like they could take Auriok Champion or Ranger Captain if they felt that they had enough removal for the spike feeder in hand and that they weren't going to end up dying to it. That could be reasonable. Yeah, that's fair. Just take the combo piece out. I kind of want to just play this Auriok Champion out, to be honest. Like, I know that that's the least mana efficient, but we're not going to end up comboing them out anytime particularly soon. And the Auriok Champion's an insanely good card to just get down. Does that change it? Does that change it? Probably not. I still like getting this Auriok Champion down because what that lets us do now is that lets us play around um, with potentially, playing a Walking Ballista, having it enter the battlefield with the Heliod on, gaining life and putting another counter on it, which is pretty sweet. So next turn we can then play Heliod out. And now that we have 2 Heliods, we are somewhat insulated against that. Okay, so they're playing Shadow, so it's just Jund Shadow as opposed to Black Red. Which means this Auriok Champion is sweet. Doesn't get through the Tarmogoyf, but that's fine. Let's just... Can't always yes to that, I guess. See what they have now. Nothing. So we draw. Okay. So one thing to be wary of is they do have Dismember. So if we play out this Ranger Captain, we might find ourselves in a spot where um, we need to sack this Ranger Captain to take Heliod off from being a creature. That might actually be something that comes up here. So we're not dead to like a Teamer Battle Rage or anything, right? They only have 1 red, so they can't like Bolt plus it. Although maybe they have some combination of like Mutagenic Growth, Teamer Battle Rage, or something that can kill us. Who knows? See what else they got. Just a Scourge. Okie doke. Oh yeah. Get to start doing this now, which is sweet. And now we're at a spot where if we draw... Sweet. So they're just dead because they tapped out, right? Because we get to play Ballista as a 1/1. Yeah, play this out as a 1/1. Done. It enters, we're going to gain a life. We're going to target it to put a counter on it. Always yes. Always yield. Heliod, we're going to do that. Yep. Cool. Awesome. That one was pretty simple. Here we probably want some number of Veil of Summers, maybe some number of Path to Exiles. What's more important, protecting what we have or stopping them from killing us? What is more important here? I want to say it's protecting what we have. Trying to fight through a bunch of discard could potentially be rough without Veil of Summers, so I think we want some number of them. My natural thought is like 3 of them. Like 3 feels about right. I'm going to ditch a Heliod for similar reasons to before. I think that it's pretty tough for them to be able to handle it once it hits the battlefield. Dismember is really the only way, and it's pretty tough for us to turn our deck, our Heliod on without being able to have a Ranger Captain that can be sacrificed to turn it off from being a creature, which is pretty good. We might just want to trim on like what else? Like some of these 3s is kind of what I'm thinking. Like we don't want to be too clunky against the 1 and 2 drop deck. We can avoid it, so I kind of want to just pull one of these out. And then what else is not great? Maybe our Conclave Mentor isn't fantastic because we're less likely to get our like synergy driven, like infinite damage through gaining infinite life in a match like this. And Auriok Champion's gonna kind of do a similar impression to that. Okay, I'm gonna try that. If we just get steamrolled by a billion creatures, maybe I'll consider some number of paths. But I just like the concept of being able to stop their discard sometimes, as well as, just making sure that we get to do what we need to do, essentially. This is obviously a mulligan. Bummer, got some cool cards in it, but best part about Magic is that you get to make decisions, and this decision we get to make leads to a much better hand. Cool. So, yep, this is a sweet keep. I think I'm actually just gonna put the Wooded Foothills back. No, I'll put the Forest back because if they end up thought seizing us and taking this Utopia Sprawl to slow us down, then I can play this Wooded Foothills out, and we can still have, excuse me, double white. So I think that's better. Probably. I don't know for certain, but that's my first thought. If they don't thought seize us on one, if they don't, okay, so they are going to thought seize us on one. They looked at our top card, right? They did. Okay. Yep, just take our Auriok Champion. Card's pretty hard to beat. I'm going to not play this Utopia Sprawl yet. I'm just going to play this Wooded Foothills. And they know about the Windswept Heath too, so I'll just play that. I'm doing this because I really don't want them to be able to thought seize our Heliod here. That's pretty disastrous at this point. And this helps us play around that. So go ahead and pass. Probably just a hand with shadows as their threats. Or scourges. They have Scourge. I guess we don't even want to take damage yet, huh? And we can avoid that if so. Yeah, I guess I'll do this. I'll play this out, play this tapped, still not take any more damage, and not play this Utopia Sprawl. Because now they still can't. Yeah, they can't even Scourge us if they untap and have Scourges in hand, which is pretty sweet. At some point, obviously we're gonna have to okay, yeah, so they're just gonna bolt us probably because they do have a Scourge in hand. So they can still cast it, but now we got a bolt out of their hand in order for them to be able to even cast the card, which is pretty sweet. Yeah, that's got to be my thought, right? Because there's no way that they're using a removal spell against the creature-based combo deck to be able to get a card into play. That's what it has to be. And now if they take 2 more, they can drop to 13, so they still can't even actual Death Shadow us here. They can just Scourge of the Skyclaves us, and that's it, I believe. Tarmogoyf. Wait, that's how big? 5/6. They have 4 cards, all 4 different types, and we have the 5th type. Whew, that's pretty crazy. That's pretty insane. So now, because they've already dealt us damage and they have this Tarmogoyf in play, we can just go ahead and sack this on end step. Skyclave will be a sweet draw. No? Okay, that's fine. Well, I know about this one. I think at this point we can get a land. We can Utopia Sprawl on this, naming white. Then we can just play this Heliod out. Because even if they do have discard, all they get to take is this Veil of Summer. We don't have anything else in our hand that's worth taking. So I think that's fine. And then next turn, obviously, we have quite a bit of mana. Not that we have much to do with it, but still. The fun trick here is we can potentially give their creatures lifelink. And that's pretty hilarious, right? This targets opponent's creatures. Yeah. So this Heliod can give their creatures lifelink. Here it doesn't look like that matters if we don't draw something. Skyclave, that's what we needed. Suppose we can do it this way. Skyclave like this, and we have to take out the Scourge, I think. Play this out. Go ahead and pass. Now we have Veil of Summer for a potential Fatal Push on end of turn, but they know about the Fail, so that's probably not going to be happening. So here, do we want to block? If we block, we could play around Battle Rage. Yeah. I think we want to do that. We at least don't die to the Battle Rage if they have it. And then I suppose we can just give this lifelink for the same reason that we were able to cast the Heliod earlier, as we just don't have anything else happening here. Give this lifelink. And now if they have like a removal spell or something, then it is what it is. I suppose this would be bad if they have exactly Dismember and the Temur Battle Rage. That would potentially be pretty scary. Just put that there. But now we at least get to go to 11. If they Thoughtseize us, they take this Veil, but it's not actively protecting us against anything they could be doing anyways. Let's just put Luris in hand. Whoa, Painful Truce. That's pretty sick, I'm not gonna lie. That's pretty sick. Oh wow, okay, they just die. Right, we have enough mana? We have exactly enough. Sweet. All right, well, that was pretty simple. And I guess we're just going to move on to our last round, see if we can 4-1 again. All right, and here we are for round 5. Winning the die roll again like a champ. Modern's easy. Just win the die roll, folks. Modern's easy. Just win the die roll. All right, well, we're going to keep because we have turn 2 tons of mana, which is pretty sweet. This Horizon Canopy is going to be our second land drop more than likely because that allows us to put the Utopia Sprawl on the Temple Garden and then untap everything, which is pretty cool. It means that if we draw ourselves a company, we can turn 2 company, which is cool. This deck does have some outs to turn 2, not necessarily winning the game in the sense that like your opponent is dead, but winning the game in the sense that, going to infinite life and against a wide variety of decks in Modern, infinite life is, just gonna kind of lock everything down. So that's pretty sweet. I am just gonna shock in this Temple Garden on 1. With a hand like this and our mana, we are gonna have to have it on 2 unless we draw exactly Forest. And even if we do that, that would mean that we have to play Horizon Canopy and tap it twice, once for the Arbor Elf and once for this Utopia Sprawl. And if we do that, we'd be taking 2 damage anyway. So, yep. Otherwise, if we played this Horizon Canopy first, it will be 1 damage for this, 1 damage for this, plus the 2 damage for the Temple Garden. So it's technically 1 damage less to just get the shock lane into play a little bit sooner. You mulligan to 3. That tells me Tron or Dredge. Just nobody that's mulliganing that. Mulligan to 3, Flooded Strand. Okay. Alright. We drew the company. I guess we just do that. Bummer that they don't have anything in play for us to hit. But I suppose that's fine. Always yield. Yes. And pass. Little sad we didn't find ourselves a Heliod there, but we have a bunch of mana in this Gavany Township, so things are about to go down. And they... Looks like they're playing a control deck. Esper has been the latest flavor. Maybe it's blue-white, but I can't imagine that this is good news for them. We just have just basically infinite mana. I guess we can start out like this. Name green with this one. Tap for green. Oops. White. Do this. We get to play around Mana Leak, which is pretty sick. Always yes. Always yield. See if they have something to respond to this with. Doesn't appear that they do. Maybe there's some sort of other interesting deck that I'm not thinking. Oh, okay. Nope. They're just on blue-white or Esper, and they mulligan a bunch. Cool. So knowing that they have blue and white in their deck makes me want to have some number of Veils, but before I know exactly what's happening, I kind of want to bring this Hex Drinker in as just another thing to find, and then maybe like 2 Veils. I'm going to trim 1 Skyclave and 1 Spike Feeder because there's a decent chance that Infinite Life doesn't do it for them, since they will probably get the opportunity to win through Jace or Teferi if they are on like Esper. So those 2 cuts seem fine, because Skyclave doesn't have too many targets, although keeping them in is important because they will have some, like I said, Jace. And then the question that I'm trying to consider is if we want to trim one of our 2 Walking Ballistas or an Auriok Champion. I think it's got to just be an Auriok Champion. They are fine in the matchup, like, if they are on Esper, that's assuming. So maybe actually I'll just bring in 1 more for another Auriok Champion because they may not even be on Esper. That seems fine. If we do find out that they're on Esper, I may make a change and bring one of those back in because getting through Fatal Push matters quite a bit. And as someone who's played some Esper against Heliod quite a bit of times, it seems like the games that you can win, you just beat them down, and Auriok Champion ends up growing pretty rapidly. So that can happen sometimes. Alright, well, our opponent kept 7 cards this time, so never lucky. I guess we play this out for max value once again. I mean, pretty decent chance that we don't actually get to have full value because of the fact that we don't have a second green source in our hand. So we won't have 4 mana, but 3 mana should probably still be fine considering we're just looking primarily at a Heliod here. Opt makes me think that it's not Esper. Does appear to be Esper. Because some of the more recent lists have been playing some Thought Scours and Drown-in-a-Locks. Not that you can't play Drown-in-a-Lock on its own. It's obviously a fine card, but just maybe that's not the case is all. Green source? No. Okay. So, yeah, I'll play this land out. I don't know what they could have, like a Spell Pierce to potentially punish this or something, so I'm just going to play that out first. Name white. Untap it. And now do we want to just jam into like a Mana Leak? We could alternatively just get another Utopia Sprawl down. And that wouldn't really do too much. I think I like just playing the Heliod. There are a lot of lists that are on 1 Logic Knot as their like 2 mana actual hard counters, and then a lot of it just starts at 3 with Archmage's Charm. Esper Charm and Kaya's Guile and things like that. So I think it used to be when people were playing a bunch of remans and mana leaks, super incorrect to just jam. But wow, okay, they are playing. Maybe this is just decent chance that this is just blue white. I might just be a little bit psyching myself out here and thinking that this is Esper instead because um, the Esper lists typically are. I suppose I've seen some that play one mana leak, but a lot of them are on Logic Knot and not too many mana leaks. Who knows though? I mean, Modern, as much as we say that it moves pretty quickly, there are definitely times where Modern feels very, very slow um, in the way that it adapts to things, and so this could be a slightly older Esper list potentially um, that is just playing mana leak. Wow, getting a little bit punished for having named White. We obviously had to that last turn, but a little sad because I really wish we had named Green so we could double Utopia Sprawl here before untapping. Go ahead and untap this. This is not great because this is kind of putting a lot of eggs in one basket. So I'm actually not going to put this next one out because what I don't want to do is run into a situation where we get whatchamacallit, where we get cryptic off of they just return our land and it basically triple stone rains us. That'd be pretty bad. Yeah, this is Archmage's Charm. Okay, so now I think I want to just get this Ballista down as a 1/1. Yeah, I think that's fine. They obviously could just have a slew of removal, but the removal is going to tag the Ballista anyway. Um, so I don't think we need to be as concerned with that. And this means that they're less likely to just be able to pass because we're in a spot now where we can do things like activate Ballista or even just, I mean, activate Gavany Township for that matter. And that changes things quite a bit. See what it is they're doing. I am getting the suspicion that they are just straight blue-white. I feel like they would have fetched for a black source. But the mulligan in the first game makes me want to lean that it is Esper, however, because of the fact that Esper is more likely to mulligan simply because it being 3 colors matters quite a bit. Okay, this is fine. I'm just going to grab another forest so that we can continue to Utopia Sprawl. I think that's fine. So now I can put a Utopia Sprawl on this and name White. Play this out. It's another mana leak. Yeah, they've got to just be straight blue-white. Wait. Bummer. Didn't actually have the Veil opponent. Caught us. Maybe we could have waited and done that next turn to play through it a mana leak, but I don't think we can play around the second mana leak when there's a lot higher chance. Yeah, okay, it is just blue-white. There's a lot higher chance that they just have something like, another Archmage's Charm, a potential, land for a fourth land to have Cryptic Command, things like that. So just blue-white Stoneblade, okay. Alright, so I definitely was a little bit off. These Auriok champions probably are better off in the board as they are right now. If this is just grabbing Batter Skull, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana is what we have this next turn. This is grabbing Batter Skull. What do we want to do about that? Sort of Fire and Ice. Interesting. Okay. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we can cast. Can't do it like that, I suppose. You can go ahead and fetch. I'm going to grab a non-basic keep the most in there for path possible. And we can do this. Cast ourselves a Spike Feeder. And then we can just activate our Ballista. Get in there. If we get to untap, would be pretty sweet. I just did that right now as some, F6 style value. We are still going to attack, so we're not just passing through the entire turn, but and with the Walking Ballista in play, you can never fully F6, which is to say you can never, give up all priority on everything, but I think this is fine. Now, if we get to untap, we get to just start activating Gavany Township, which is pretty sweet. Putting counters on both of our creatures is kind of awesome. Opt is fine. I'm going to check to see what they do here. Not that it really changes much of what we can do, but knowing that they have a... Put one on top. That they've missed land drops, this is just going to inform, to me at least, just like if they have a land drop, that they found off this opt or not. Although, realistically, if they make their land drop, they make their land drop, right? If they don't, they don't. It's not really going to change, how we play the game based on whether the land drop came from their natural draw step or from the opt itself. But just curious on my part there. We also could get to a spot where, yeah, we can pretty easily be in a spot where we get to activate Gavany Township and activate Spike Feeder to put an extra counter, excuse me, on the Walking Ballista, which would effectively just mean that we get a 2-cost reduction on the Walking Ballista's activation cost, which is kind of cool. I guess it's only 1 cost reduction. Yeah, I think I just need to take this out at this point. We don't need more lands. That doesn't actually change anything, and them having any creature in play is worse for us. I just don't want to run into a situation where they get to, sneak a sword into play, or heaven forbid they had the Batterskull in hand and that becomes a problem or something. You never know. So here we can play this out and then activate Gavany Township. It's just... Oof. Okay. So that must have been the path that they left on top then, just to make sure that they didn't die this turn, which is totally fair. But now we're at a spot where, I guess at the very least, we have the Spike Feeder. I mean, they don't really have too much going on, but they've churned through quite a bit, and they've missed their land drops for like ever. So I have to imagine, we know they have a Sword of Fire and Ice. My thought is that they might have the Batterskull in hand as well too, because they haven't shown us any other creatures. And typically, if you are creature light, you're going to grab the Batterskull itself. And then there's also a reasonable chance that they're on things like Cryptic Commands. So, what is this? Okay. Well, we'll just go to combat here. See what they got for us. Maybe this is like Snap Path or something. That would also be reasonable. They haven't cast any Snapcasters yet. That would be a little scary because that would mean they would get to untap and play the sword, although they wouldn't get to equip it yet. But still a little scary. Okay. I'll bite. See what you got. Third path. Okay, well. We'll gain 4 life and then take our land. Had the third path. Yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes. Yeah, these decks, the blue-white deck, actually Heliod is one of the reasons that I don't love the blue-white lists over Esper. It just has a lot to do with, like, Esper having better and more access to spot removal is kind of huge. Okay, so now they have access to Cryptic, which is a bummer. Meant to just yield until the end step, but oh well. turn off my yield here. We'll see what it is they have, but this Veil is a fine draw. It means that we... Oh, okay. That is interesting. Is that... Oh, I suppose it stops company. That's why. I was like, what is it? What is that stopping out of us? Because I'm sure that's not a main deck card. But yes, stops collected company, which is totally fair. Let's see what this is. Swords, so they must have drawn the land. Yuck. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Or maybe not, and they just don't have anything. That would be sweet too, actually. So now, a Skyclave Apparition would be pretty sweet. They only have one path left in the entire deck, and there's a decent chance that, whatchamacallit, that, excuse me, that would mean a Skyclave would get to stick around, so we could potentially just tag this sword, which would be pretty sweet. Yeah, that's fine too. It's not our best draw by any means. Getting whacked with this sword is definitely a bummer, but, you know, not much we can do about it. Not much we can do about it. So it should probably just be sword equip, get in, and then they get to start drawing cards, which is definitely bad for us. Yeah, Skyclave is probably our best draw. It means that we would get to take out the sword. We would get to, whatchamacallit, block and trade with this Containment Priest and just downgrade it to a 2/2, which would be pretty sweet. Collected Company is a dead draw at this point. What else is a bad draw? Another Veil would be pretty poor. Another Heliod would be pretty poor. All of those would be not so great. Another Ranger Captain would be pretty awesome. That would actually be a pretty sweet draw because it would let us find a Ballista. Then will we have enough mana to sacrifice it and then still kill them? I think so. Yep, that's what I was saying. Pretty poor. Oh, man. All right, well, maybe we're just going to... Drew a bunch of mana sources. Tough to say flooded because we didn't draw necessarily a whole bunch of lands, but drew a bunch of mana sources in the middle of the game when our opponent was stuck, and I think we were probably at a spot where any one spell, not any one spell, most spells in the deck would have just pushed an advantage that would have made it so much further. It'd be a lot harder for them to come back from, especially with this Gavany Township, but you know, it's tough to say. We don't know exactly what's in their hand. There's who knows? Maybe they just have the last path, which would be, you know, as is, pretty good. And now this is our last draw step to be able to draw something. Yeah. Okay. So they can Field of Ruin our Gavany Township. I don't think that makes any difference here. Like, that doesn't actually change anything. We don't have any creatures in play, so it doesn't, you know, there's nothing that it changes here that is meaningful. Would actually be kind of nice maybe to, you know, get one of our last couple of lands out of the deck and then cross our fingers and pray that that means that we drew a better card maybe. Who knows? Batterskull. Okay. So now we probably has to be Ballista, Ranger, or last or Skyclave. Has to be one of those. Nope. Gotcha. All right. Oops. Getting a bit of lag here. There we go. Concede and move on. That is fine. I'm going to bring the Skyclave back in now that we know that they are a, whatchamacallit deck? What's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, I had a bit of a brain fart there. Now that we know that they are a Stoneforge Mystic deck, I kind of want that back in. Yep, I think we'll just run it like this. This all seems fine. Yeah. The Skyclave is important because it lets us tag the equipment themselves, which is pretty nice. I definitely don't think we want these paths because although it would be nice to take out like a Containment Priest or something like that, we do have Skyclaves for that. And we also don't necessarily have to have companies to make things happen, right? Like, Although in that last game, it would have been a sweet showing for the Containment Priest if we drew exactly Collected Company, and then it kind of like got us there. I think that we are definitely pressing an advantage more often than not, and if their reaction is to put a 2/2 into play as opposed to dealing with what we have on the board, we might be okay. Now that being said, it could potentially mean that Collected Companying into Skyclave like in the late game to be able to answer it is obviously not going to work, and that could potentially be a bit rough for us. Um, you know what? I'm gonna bring one in and just ship Mentor, I suppose. I don't know that it matters a whole ton. We know they have Spell Snare still in their deck, so it's kind of nice to be able to trim on our twos if we can, avoid it. Um, and having one path is like a very small hedge to potentially take out things like an end step click, um, or maybe even just like we can get them in a spot where we only have one mana up. They don't expect us to have a path in, and then maybe they just go for like the semi-greedy equip or something. Who knows for sure, but that's what I'm gonna try. Kind of wishing that we had in both of our last two games some sort of like, excuse me, Nature's Claim style effect to be able to answer artifacts as well too. But you can only be so lucky sometimes. You can only play so many cards. This has Veil of Summer and is very slow, very slow. So I'm gonna have to mulligan that. This is also pretty slow, but we can keep this. Just put one of the fetch lands back. We at least get to like Mentor on 2, Heliod on 3, which is probably means that we're just going to run straight into Spell Snare into Mana Leak and then feel sad. But, is what it is. Not too much we can do if they do have those specific cards. And Mana Leak's probably going to tag something from us 90% of the time anyway. I mean, it's going to be pretty tricky not to. I guess Wooded Foothills is technically a bit worse, although I don't know if it matters. Go ahead and yield through this turn. And we'll just crack this on their end step. From what I've heard from my friend who's played this Heliod deck quite a bit, these blue matchups can potentially be pretty tricky. I like having access to all 4 Veil of Summers, however. That's pretty nice. So we're not getting spell snared, so that's cool. Not that this Conclave Mentor is, gonna end the game anytime soon, but still. Now we've drawn ourselves a Walking Ballista and a Veil of Summer, which is kind of sweet. Yeah, kind of sweet. Don't know what that means for us. I don't know if I want to just jam Ballista plus Veil. They could very easily just have Path. So I'd rather use the Veil, I think, to try to force through a potential Heliod. I think that makes a little bit more sense. Especially if we find ourselves with a land in this next draw step. That definitely changes it. So at this point, we could draw any land that would allow us to be able to do that. Okay, so this is what they're going to do. So now we can just play the Heliod, which is sweet. Batterskull. Yep, that's fine. And they can't force a negation this. This is a creature while it's on the stack. And then depending on what they do with their mana, we might actually be able to jam this Walking Ballista and potentially get there. With keeping in mind the fact that this Conclave Mentor's ability of giving it an extra counter is pretty sweet. Doesn't look like that's going to get to happen here. Pretty unlikely. That being said, I don't really mind if their plan is to just like pass the turn and step Batterskull us. Like that's not going to accomplish too much. So what does this mean? This means another land means that now we can potentially next turn go for it with Veil backup. So we can't beat a path regardless. That's gonna be our determining factor here. So I think what we can do, alternatively, we can go Walking Ballista, go to combat, and then attack. We unfortunately cannot attack first into the Batterskull because what I'd like to do is get them to put the Batterskull into play to potentially block. But if they do that and take this off the table, then that won't work. So this plays into, if we do this, this plays into Spell Snare plus Mana Leak. But I kind of like just getting this on the table at this point. Like, that seems pretty good for us. Yeah, I'm going to run it. We're going to see what happens here. Having this Veil just kind of makes me want to jam into their counter spells. And because this is a turn that they have Batterskull up, it's kind of nice to make them use their mana if we can. Okay, and then we're going to go to combat. We get to attack for free. If they go and put the Batterskull into play, we win the game, unless they have Dismember, I suppose, or Vapor Snag or something silly. And if they do not do that, then we get to continue to hold up this Veil of Summer for a potential Archmage's Charm, which could be kind of sweet. Yeah. Also, if they put the Batterskull into play, we just get to, like, be pretty sweet. When this dies, it'll gain life, which would allow us to trigger our Heliod, which is pretty sweet. But yeah, we just get to pass now, and then they don't really get to tap their white mana ever, which is kind of cool. Like, they're in a spot now where if they tap to Path, we kill them. If they tap to Batterskull, we kill them. So they have to, like, have another white source, and then they can potentially Batterskull us, which is kind of cool. Definitely a complex board state. You wouldn't think it when you're just staring at, like, some dorky little white creatures from some new sets, right? Like, whatever. This is a solid card in the right draft archetype. It's maybe fine in a standard deck, with some solid supporter on it, things like that. But then when you put it into these older formats with all these super weird situations and just, like, cards that are not played very frequently, you wind up in spots like this that are just kind of like, wait, what does that do again? Let me read that card one more time. Okay, let me double check that. Okay, let me see here. Those kinds of things. Okay. So I guess we just go for it, huh? Like, what could this mean? Looks like the answer is nothing. Okay. Yeah, it looks like they're just dead. Sweet. Okay. Yeah. See, and that's what I was talking about, where we were at a spot there where whatchamacallit, where if they tap their white mana ever, they just died. So cool. I mean, deck's super powerful. The only time we lost was to another combo deck that was slightly more linear, had their nuts and had protection included in the nut draws, right? So, like, that's the only other time that we lost. The only time that we lost. So, deck's obviously strong. I think that it's, potentially the number one deck to be on the lookout for on any given weekend, if you're playing Magic. In the modern format right now, I mean, it definitely has its strong draws, and it's kind of cool how this deck is almost like warped the construction of decks through the format, because the Spike Feeder Heliod is really the easiest combo to pull off because Collected Company can just enable those two cards, which means that so many decks kind of have built-in ways in their main deck or in their sideboards to be able to beat infinite life, just so that specifically doesn't kill them, and they can potentially just try to do things to counteract the Walking Ballistas or the Conclave Mentors to then turn those things into actually winning the game. So, all things said and done, deck's, powerful. It's got sweet linear draws. It can sometimes be interactive with the Skyclave apparitions. I think it's a solid deck, and I'm probably going to continue to look to the future to play this potentially a bit more and see what kind of results we can get. So thanks for hanging out, everyone. I will catch you later.